Mark had been an Uber driver in a quiet, picturesque village for several years. He was known for his friendly and chatty nature, which made passengers feel at ease during their rides. However, one late-night fare would change his life forever. It was a moonless night when Mark received a pickup request from an eerie, remote cemetery. Wondering why someone would need a ride from a graveyard, he hesitated but decided to accept the fare. As he arrived at the cemetery gates, his heart raced with unease. The cemetery, surrounded by towering, ancient oaks, was shrouded in an eerie silence that felt almost suffocating. Mark had always been a rational man, dismissing ghost stories as mere superstition, but the atmosphere in this desolate place sent shivers down his spine. A man in his 40s with pale, almost translucent skin and dressed in tattered, 19th century clothing approached the car. Mark greeted him warmly, trying to mask his unease. The man introduced himself as Samuel, and Mark noted that despite his otherworldly appearance, he seemed pleasant and well-spoken. Mark, with his usual friendly demeanor, began to engage Samuel in conversation. As they started talking, the two delved into the history of the village, discussing its past and the mysteries that had long since been forgotten. Samuel's knowledge of the village's history was surprisingly detailed, and he spoke with an air of nostalgia, recounting stories that hadn't been heard in generations. Throughout the ride, Mark couldn't ignore the unsettling sensations that crept up on him. Samuel had an ethereal quality about him. His voice was soft and distant, and his presence seemed to flicker like a candle in the wind. Mark tried to dismiss these oddities and continue the conversation, finding Samuel's stories about the village and its inhabitants from a bygone era oddly fascinating. As they neared the destination, Samuel's voice took on a melancholic tone. "I appreciate the company. It's been so lonely for such a long time." Mark, thinking he was just a lonely man, reassured Samuel that he was always available if he needed a ride, wondering why someone living in a picturesque village would feel so isolated. Mark pulled up to the address Samuel had provided, a gravestone in the same cemetery they had picked him up from. He turned around to say goodbye, but to his horror, Samuel was nowhere to be found. The gravestone belonged to Samuel Turner, who had died in 1897.